So what happens when a company that's over 100 years old, pulling in almost $50 billion a year, realizes it's just too slow? Well, it bets the entire farm on AI. Today, we're going to break down exactly how the pharmaceutical giant Sanofi is turning itself inside out, not just by buying new tech, but by fundamentally changing its culture. Let's dive.
First things first, let's just wrap our heads around the scale we're talking about here. In 2023, Sanofi generated nearly $48 billion in revenue. So to be crystal clear, this is not some nimble little startup playing around with new toys. This is a global behemoth. And for a company this size, making a change is like trying to turn a battleship on a dime.
But here's the twist. Even with all that incredible success, leadership saw this massive threat growing from the inside. They called it corporate lethargy. In an industry that's moving at the speed of light, Sanofi was starting to lag, and that is a very dangerous place to be.
And that right there is the central problem, what we're calling the giant's dilemma. How does a company that is so huge and so successful find the agility and the speed it desperately needs to compete and, actually win?
So let's paint a quick picture. Sanofi is a French multinational powerhouse with about 83,000 employees. And their biggest competition wasn't necessarily the other giants. No, it was this new wave of smaller, super agile biotech firms. These companies were born digital, they were built for speed, and they were starting to run circles around Sanofi. Standing still just wasn't an option.
So what was their answer to this whole dilemma? It was a radical, all-in bet on artificial intelligence. The CEO, Paul Hudson, he launched this decisive, top-down strategy to modernize the entire company, and he put AI right at the absolute heart of it.
Now, the philosophy here is so important. This wasn't just about buying a few new software programs. The real goal was to completely transform the company's DNA. To go from just doing digital in a few siloed projects to being digital in every single decision, every single day.
Okay, so a big idea like being digital is great, but how do you actually do it? Well, Sanofi built their entire transformation around a really clear three-part framework. It was a playbook that basically anyone in the company could understand and get behind.
And here it is. This is the playbook. It all comes down to these three pillars. Number 1, democratize access to AI. Number 2, mandate that leadership owns the transformation. And number 3, build out a powerful bio-AI ecosystem. Let's break down exactly what each of those means.
So that first pillar, democratization, this is all about taking AI out of the ivory tower of the data scientists. The whole strategy was to get powerful but easy-to-use AI tools into the hands of everyone, from the factory floor to the marketing department, to empower the entire workforce.
And their main weapon for making this happen was an internal app they built called Play. I love this concept. The whole idea was to deliver snackable AI. Think small, digestible insights from over 1 billion data points sent right to an employee's phone.
And you might be wondering, did people actually use it? Oh yeah, this wasn't some little pilot program that fizzled out. The Play app saw massive adoption, with 20,000 employees using it every single day. That, right there, is what a cultural shift actually looks like. And the impact went way beyond just usage stats. We're talking real operational results. Their supply chain teams could now predict 80% of inventory disruptions before they even happened. The app also helped them connect 65% of risks to their root causes. This is AI delivering real, tangible, bottom-line value.
But look, giving tools to employees is one thing. That's only half the battle. Leadership had to change too, and fundamentally. And that brings us to pillar number 2, a cultural mandate. This basically made AI literacy a non-negotiable, must-have skill for every single leader in the company.
And this quote from the CEO, Paul Hudson, it just says it all. AI can't be delegated. He was famous for refusing to just hand this off to a chief digital officer. He believed that for a transformation to be real, it had to be owned by every single leader.
So how'd they do it? Well, this is where it gets really interesting. They put their top 1,500 senior leaders through an intense training program. But it wasn't just boring classes. No, the leaders had to come up with their own AI value theories, basically business ideas, and pitch them in a high-stakes Shark Tank-style competition. How cool is that? It made learning active, competitive, and super relevant. Okay, the final pillar was all about getting the best tech. Sanofi was smart about this. They knew they couldn't build everything from scratch. So they went with this hybrid approach. Build what you're good at in-house, but partner up with the best of the best to bring in cutting-edge tech from the outside.
And this slide lays out that two-pronged attack perfectly. On the build side, they created their own models, like one called Codonbert. to optimize things they knew inside and out, like vaccine design. But on the partner side, they weren't afraid to spend big, like signing a $140 million deal with a firm called Akemia to turbocharge drug discovery using generative AI.
And the results were huge. Their own internal model cut the time it took to design mRNA sequences in half, 50%. At the same time, those external partnerships were injecting powerful new technologies right into their R&D pipeline, speeding up the whole process of finding life-saving medicines.
All right, so we've seen the strategy, we've seen the tools, we've seen the culture shift. But let's be real. Here's the billion-dollar question. Did any of this actually pay off? Did it hit the bottom line?
The answer is a massive yes. This whole all-in strategy was directly tied to a huge efficiency target, saving 2 billion euros by 2025. This wasn't some side project for the IT department. It was the central engine for hitting their biggest financial goals.
And here is maybe the most brilliant part of the whole financial strategy. Those billions in savings they generated, they weren't just pocketed as profit. No, they were strategically plowed right back into the company's lifeblood, research and development. They were literally using efficiency to pay for more innovation. That's closing the loop.
Which brings us to the core lesson of this entire story. When you boil it all down, what is the single biggest takeaway from Sanofi's incredibly ambitious and successful AI playbook?
It's this. Sanofi didn't just bet its future on a new piece of technology, it bet its future on an entirely new way of working. They understood that AI isn't just a tool you install, it's a catalyst that can transform your culture, your leadership, and your strategy from the ground up.
And that really leaves us with a powerful question, one that we should all probably ask about our own organizations. As you think about AI, is it being treated as just another IT project, something to be managed and delegated away, or is it being treated like it was at Sanofi as a fundamental cultural mandate that has to be led from the very, very top? The answer to that question could define your future.